Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this is our game against 23 Dragons. It was a challenging game, but let's get into it. So knight c3. You might be like, what? I've never seen this before. Well, you will after the second move. So this is the knight c3 version of the queen's gambit. It's d4, d5, but then the knight comes out. Instead of this pawn going out, the knight goes out first. Knight to f6, and here I play bishop to g5. This is what is known as the Veresov attack, and to be honest, I don't know much theory about it. All I know is that sometimes it can get very interesting. So after c5, I play e3, and now after bishop to f5, there is the possibility of me taking, because after d takes c5 and e6, I can first of all play b4, and if knight to c6, I can play bishop to b5 and sort of pile up on the pin. I could play knight f3 and knight d4. So it really gets interesting. I don't know yet, but I could have played d takes c5 here to get the extra pawn. So I said, maybe, but instead I played bishop to d3. And I wanted to make our friend just think a little bit. Like, why are you offering the trade on d3, right? And to be honest, this was just a move that I played out of instinct. I said, you know, um, the thing is that I'm not really doing much. I just want to trade. I just want to see how you react. And our friend 23Dragons plays bishop to g6, and here I said, well, I can still take on c5. I can take on f6. I can move my knight out. These are all moves I can consider. So I took. I said, let's go for it. Why not? e6, attacking c5, and then b4. Just simply saying a6, knight f3, knight c6. I'm going to protect my extra pawn. Bishop to e7, castles, castles, and now I play the move queen to e1. And you might be like, what? Why is he doing that? Well, my goal here is to play e4. And so after e4, my goal is to really expand and open my side of the board a little bit. I kind of feel like, I like this side of the board, but now it's time to, instead of allowing our friend to play e5, we're going to play e4. So after bishop takes d3, c takes d3, one thing that black could do here is play d4 and say, if you take, I'm going to take with a knight, and now I'm going to focus my attention on the isolated looking d3 pawn. But here white could play knight to e4. So after knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, d takes e4. Black could play d3, but queen to c3, rook d1, and the pawn is going to be gone. So that's why that was my sort of plan if d4 ever happened. But queen c7 happened, and I said, let's play e4. I could have also played bishop to f4 and sort of scared our queen away, right? Or I could have played the move d4 and bishop to f4, sort of solidifying this e5 square, but at the same time creating a very strong barrier for our friend 23Dragons to get through. So I played e4 instead, and I said, wow, if you want to play d4, you can play d4. I'm going to play knight to e2. Now, I could have also considered knight to a4 with the idea of knight to b6. I could have also considered bishop takes f6, and there maybe knight to e2. But I played knight to e2 first, and if you play e5, I'm going to reroute my knight to g3 and get to f5. So I'm already going through a very strategic maneuver. h6, I kind of feel like, you know what, my bishop has good potential, right? I don't think it deserves to be traded with this knight. So I play bishop to d2. After b6, I'm like, let's take, queen takes, and knight to f5. Rook to c8 now leaves open a very interesting tactic. And this was the tactic that decided the game. Knight takes e5. Bishop takes b4 now fails to this move knight takes c6 because bishop takes and now knight check. King h7, and for a brief moment I considered knight takes rook, threatening the queen, but after queen to a5, right, the queen would have to move to e2 and now rook takes c8. And I said, you know what, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to take the bishop here. Rook to c7, and now e5, preparing for another fork town, right? So after queen to g6, knight to h4, and I have the exchange. I bring my knight back into the game. I trade knights, and I'm running out of time here, so I'm just pushing my pawn all the way I can. And I was really proud of this move, queen to b7, simply interfering the connection between the rook and the queen. If rook takes b7, a takes b7, we have a passed pawn that's unstoppable, and if queen takes b7, the same thing happens, and if you want to trade rooks, go ahead, but my pawn is unstoppable. So that was a really proud thing I was proud of, and so I just simply pre-moved my way to victory. So how did I win here? I mean, 23Dragons is not an easy opponent, so how did I win? Well, to be honest, I think instead of bishop f5, maybe a small improvement here since pawn takes c5 is a move here, or bishop takes f6 is a move here since the pawn on d5 is hanging. I kind of felt like here, play e6. Play e6, and if you want to develop this bishop, develop it this way, but don't develop it until after you castle, because there might be bishop b5 things, and things might get dicey. So, in the game, bishop f5 happened, and here I got to take on c5, and I kind of felt like having this extra pawn gave me the psychological advantage. Being up material usually gives people a psychological advantage. So after knight to f3, a3, I was able to keep my pawn structure, right? But for one thing, I could have also considered knight a4, knight b6. I could have also considered bishop to f4. So there were many options, but I chose to go down this strategic route, knight to f5, and especially this tactic that helped me win the game. Knight takes, knight check, queen takes bishop, and having these forks really made my job much easier than it sounded. So, hope you enjoyed this game. It was truly complicated, but like I said, making mistakes is very easy, but winning a game is extremely hard. So, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time and practice, takes your curiosity, takes the passion, just everything you can put into it. And no matter what, if you have the spirit, if you put in the time, you do your tactics, you try to improve as much as you can, you will improve. It just takes the motivation, the positive energy, and you're going to get there. So thank you, and I will see you next time.